So my name is Jurg van Vliet. I'm one of the co-founders of 30 megahertz. 30 megahertz is a platform for indoor agriculture, greenhouses, polytunnels, etc. We are digitalizing the growers' operation, and we're digitalizing the entire industry by combining or connecting basically suppliers to their existing customers digitally.
Cool. And a little bit about your own kind of personal background from computer science through the IoT.
Yeah, so I am a computer scientist. By training, I studied at the University of Amsterdam. I graduated a long time ago, 98. I have most of my working life, I've been in startups. The first half of my career in someone else's, and the second half in startups that I co-founded. My background or my specialty is the wrong word, but so what I did most is software engineering of large systems. We were relatively early with Amazon Web Services. We wrote a number of books for O'Reilly. And about 6 years ago, we started 30 megahertz, which is basically when my IoT career started.
Cool, thank you. And just again, because it's a question I ask everyone, just because everyone's got their own opinion on it and their own take on it. So if I ask you what IoT means to you, how do you answer that question?
Well, I, to be honest, I always try to avoid using the term entirely. For different reasons, but if you would ask me what it means, I think it means connected devices, of course, but it basically means that you can give your connected device a lot more functionality by being connected to other devices or other systems.
Cool. And then I also wanted to ask you, because you're going through your own kind of change within 30 megahertz. So you founded it with 3 others, and I think 2 are women, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And then you're now also bringing in a CEO. So when we're looking at the kind of mix of skills, and you as a founder kind of taking a step from that CEO role and bringing someone else in, would you mind just talking through that kind of more about the skills that you need and the kind of journey you need to go through as you scale? Yeah.
So we started with 4 founders, 2 women, Fleur, Flavia, and Jasper. Flavia is my wife, and Fleur is my sister, and Jasper is one of my best friends. So we know each other for a long time. Flavia's and Jasper's background are similar to mine, where Jasper is embedded software, as an embedded software background. Fleur studied movement science, but she never wanted to do anything, but she always ran the company basically. She runs the company. The reason we started doing IoT was basically because of Jasper. And I always wanted to do something with hardware, and always with Jasper, but we had an opportunity about 6-7 years ago that we took. The initial phase is different for everyone. So we set out with the technology, and we started looking for industry. So we did many different things. Everything with the word smart in front of it, we tried. So smart office, smart industry, and smart agriculture, as it's still sometimes called. and I think that we didn't choose the industry, but the industry chose us. And the reason for that is the type of product that we wanted to make, which is like a do-it-yourself type hardware device. So very easy to use, very easy to install, very easy to work with. And that's exactly what our current customers need, because they have no time for anything. So the skill set you need in the beginning is, you need to have like a builder's mentality. So you are like a small team, and you need to figure out what you need to make, and then you need to make it. And what we did, well, as you know yourself, is fairly complicated to do both hardware and software, and then in our case, like a big system for lots of data is just difficult. So you need quite some time to build that. So your builder's mentality can last for a while, and then you need to commercialize. So I always knew that I would step down or step aside or whatever would happen, but I knew there would be a moment when it was better someone else would take it to the next level, where timing is the most difficult thing. And I picked the timing, or I picked the time to start discussing this right before Corona, so it couldn't be better. But we found a great CEO, so we were lucky in a fairly short period. So the team was not very impressed when I said I'm going to do something else. We are going to look for some additional help. They said, okay. I think they needed a day or two to get used to it. And then we were lucky to find someone that is a very good cultural fit. So he brings a number of skills that we are not, that we don't have, or that we have in like limited capacity. But the cultural fit is just amazing. We were just lucky with it.
Good. Well, good luck with that change, because it's such an important step. But if I then take you back towards then the ecosystem. Okay, so I just sneaked in that question because it's quite relevant just for where you are right now. So I think that what you did was really interesting. So you looked at your own skills, and then formed a business around your skills, and then went looking to see where you could make the biggest impact or have the greatest success. And in the end, you said that the industry kind of chose you because of what you could deliver for them. And then you did more and more and more of that. So it was kind of go find where you succeed and do more, and where it doesn't work, you do less. But if I then ask you to just talk through about why you think it's working in this particular industry, like what are the key benefits that IoT is bringing, which the industry was not able to do itself?
There's many aspects to this question. The typical grower. So okay, if you look at the industry, you have greenhouses in Holland which are extremely sophisticated. We call that high tech, and each individual product category is extremely advanced. But the entirety is how do you say, like it's a collection of loose technology, so it's not well integrated, digitally at least. On the low tech side, you have people with polytunnels that have no climate computer. So, but the essence of the work is more or less the same. So these people are every day, every minute of the day, they're busy with what the best environment is for their crop, and that's where we fit in. So for them to know what is going on is extremely important. So what you've seen over the years, even before we were there have been numerous attempts at building wireless sensors for this industry. Especially indoors is different from outdoors, as you know. Outdoors you have more successful attempts, and indoors not. And that has to do with the difficulty that, so the difficult environment that you're in. So you have large crops which are basically walls of water, or you have big like barriers, glass, steel barriers, etc. So your wireless technology needs to be extremely stable and reliable to give them the quality that they need. If you don't give them the quality, they see it immediately, and they have no tolerance for bullshit. Absolutely none. So it's an ideal environment for product development if you have the right how do you say, like the right attitude. So don't lie, just say yes, you're right, and then fix it. And then they have a very high tolerance for deviations of their expectations. So what we've found is an industry that has been trying this. So the need was pretty high, but their skepticism was also high because they invested in other technologies that just didn't work the way that they expected. And over time, we saw that they tried, and then they were happy, and then it started rolling. So our entry to this market was with the hardware, so the wireless sensors, and it was high quality, and they could use it fairly easily. So they adopted us, and they started to get to know us more and more. So what exactly was your question? I'm going in the right direction, but I forgot the question.
No, that's good, because it was about kind of what benefits did you bring that industry, and why were they willing to make that change? Because I think some of all of this kind of project is to try and kind of close the gap between kind of an industry's needs, but fear and lack of knowledge, and then kind of what the technical solutions are, and how can we kind of allow them to get closer together, or remove some of the barriers by doing something a little bit different, or communicating something a bit different.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question,
mm-hmm.
which is about advice. So you've been doing this now for a few years, and it's also not your first startup, and you're talking about quite technical things. You're quite deep into the technology, but yet you're trying to get it adopted by people who aren't technical.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for companies who are in a similar situation on either side of that table, in order for them to have some success when adopting IoT for the first time?
Yeah. Is this particular to my or to our industry, or for in general?
In general. Okay.
I think you need to try to understand the real problem that they have, and you need to solve that problem, and that's not always apparent. So there's a lot of concept people. So they have this wonderful concept for water bottles that will filter your water, and then whatever, and it measures what it does, all sorts of magical things. And then they try to convince someone else that they need it. I think you can better just start with something, put the price on it, and see if people buy, because then you turn it around. And you can still be like a little bit opinionated. That's not a problem, as long as you listen. So, for example, we were in Smart Office. We tried to see if we could do something there. We still have Van Gogh Museum as a customer, and we understood relatively quickly that the people that were buying this type of technology were not really looking for this solution. So they were engaging with us just for the sake of engaging, so that they could tell their own customer that they were innovating. So to make this very practical, we went out and said, we can measure the CO2 levels in your meeting room, and if you can regulate that, then you will be more productive. but then you pitch that to a facility management company who knows that the CO2 levels are shitty, but they don't want to do anything about it because it will cost them money. So if you don't understand that, then you keep on talking, and they talk, because talking is free for them, and it is very expensive for a startup. So you either need to go in there and be like so one approach that we discussed is to be more of a project company and to build something nice and shiny that they could sell to their superiors or to their customers. But then you are in a different kind of game. And you need to understand exactly what you are trying to, so what they want to buy in order to be successful. Because in the end, you want to be a company, and companies make money, hopefully more than they spend. So.
Yeah, it's super good advice, because if it's about the business models, you know, if you're pitching them something, especially in IoT, and it's all about saving money, but that's not a driver for them, that's not important. Oh. You know, they're measured against something else, then you're having the wrong conversation. So find the right conversation. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, and then if I then kind of get us to take a kind of sideways step, and I kind of touched on this a little bit by asking you that cheeky question at the beginning about your kind of skills and your mix as you go through. Some of it's about kind of the skills that you need in order to do IoT projects. So we've looked at kind of the technology there, and you're coming from this from a very, very deep technology place, with a close-knit team that can then create something, but also by listening to the marketplace, find the right thing. What are more the kind of soft skills that you need to succeed in IoT, or as a founder of a technology business trying to sell the technology outside of an IoT ecosystem?
It's an interesting question. I think if you want to, so doing IoT, if that exists, but doing hardware and software together is hard. So you have a small team doing a big thing. So you need to find the right people, and then you need to retain them for the right reason. So that requires all sorts of soft skills. Towards customers, I think it depends on the type of customers that you have, but it helps to have a little bit of empathy, so you know who you are talking to. And in our case with agriculture, if you talk to the growers, our mentality has always been no nonsense. So that fits very well with these people. So we found relatively early that they like us, and they spend a lot of time with us, which is in this case good, because if you come and you sell them something they don't need, you're out of the door in 50 minutes. They have absolutely no time to waste. So we found that our attitude towards them was good, and I think so. We were lucky in a way, because it is how we are, but you can change that as well. So you can, so you need to understand if you need to change it depending on who you're talking to. So if you look at like the next phase for us, for example, we need to negotiate quite commercial strategic partnerships, which requires a different type of soft skill, or perhaps even a lack of soft skills sometimes, because you need to, you need to fight for yourself. And if you're all the time full of empathy, then it's also not perfect. So in our case, it also changes. So we need a number of different skills to bring these partnerships to the middle.
Yeah, some nice points there. Thank you. And if I then ask you kind of one final question for the main interview, which is about success. So I think you talked about happiness without causing harm to others. What What does success mean to you?
Yeah, well, I guess that it is nice. So, like, for me personally, it's important to do something that is meaningful. Um, um, so, yeah, I think I said in the answers, I said you want to leave the world better. Yeah, when you leave it than when you enter it, basically. But you want to change people's lives. It is nice if it has big impact. So at scale, that's nice because then you have more, it is not more meaningful, but it is more, how do you say, it has more impact. But if you find something that is meaningful for a smaller set of customers, that would be fine. Um, Personally, I like to build bigger systems. So so one of the things I wanted to do like a couple of years ago was to build a system that is big and can handle hundreds of customers with thousands of data points. I think we're going to be a bit bigger, but I think that I would consider myself successful there. But that is really personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks. And then I'm going to ask a question, but if it's not right, then we can cut this one out at the end, which is about just on your website, you had something about the Sustainable Development Goals. And just because there you talked about kind of the sustainability and the impact that you can have as a business. And I've also interviewed someone particularly talking about IoT and how it can affect some of the bigger potential economic changes in the world, the Sustainable Development Goals or circular economy type ways of working. Do you have anything to comment on how IoT or just digital decision making can kind of work with those new ways of working, those new economic models?
Yeah, I think I think IoT, like the things itself, is part of it. I think digitalization is a broader theme. If you look at our particular industry, indoor agriculture, it's a very complicated activity. So farming itself is complicated, but indoor farming is even more complicated. So what we see is that so if you look at the industry again, you have 10% is high tech and the rest is low to mid tech. So that's one of the things we see, and the other is that the industry is growing with I think about 10% compounded, whatever, aggregate, whatever, that thing. So it grows 10% year over year, but the demand is much higher. So you see a lot of investment taking place. So it means that you have an activity which is too complicated. So that's why the growth of the industry is limited by spread of knowledge and access to technology. So you see, on the one hand, the entire industry can grow much faster. On the other hand, if we build this technology and we manage to find products for the low to mid tech range of our industry, we can help them grow into the high tech industry. And if we do both of these things, yeah, then we give bell peppers and cucumbers to people who need vitamin C, basically. I think that is, that's impact. Yeah, you can compare like arable farming to indoor farming, and then indoor farming you control, so then you also know what your runoff is and stuff like that, and so you can look at that as well. But I think if we manage to help grow this industry faster, that is the best impact that we can have.
Cool. Thank you. That's a lovely point to finish on. So thank you.